Almost there. There we go. Mark, over to you.
All right, thanks, Cassandra. Hello, everybody. Welcome again to another amazing show of Lit Balm. Today we have Lydia Cortés, Don Yorty, Prince A. McNally, Nada Gordon, and Jordan Davis reading with us, and we're delighted to have them. But first, I'm going to introduce my co-host, Jeffrey Cyphers Wright, who received his MFA after studying with Allen Ginsberg. He's best known as a new romantic poet. He is also a publisher, critic, eco-activist, impresario, filmmaker, puppeteer, and artist. He is the author of 19 books of verse, including Blue Lyre and Party Everywhere. His poems have appeared in the Cafe Review, New American Writing, the Brooklyn Rail, the Hurricane Review, and Posit, among many others. And his recent work also appears in Best American Poetry and Contemporary Surrealist and Magical Realist Poetry. His latest work, a book of sonnets and artwork called Doppelgangster, is recently out from Manhattan Press. Jeff also recently won the Service and James Tate Prize, and he publishes Live Mag.
Why, thank you, Mark. Thank you so much. And, and thanks again for doing this. I was just looking at one of my Facebook pages, and it was like I was going, oh, that was about the last event I went before everything closed down. So we're getting close to that 4-year anniversary on the money here when you started this thing. This poem, I'm happy to say, just got picked up by New American Writing. And also it's going to be in this manuscript I've got called Erato's Inbox. And it's called The Following Program. Glancing back, a white train of silence follows us, hot on our tracks. Teapot blushing after blowing its top, a sorry hearse rehearsing what it forgot. The toilet memorizing water's spells, the sidewalk steaming after rain stops. Mosquitoes dozing between bite bouts, a dove landed on branches that bob. Stillness stencils your heat signature onto the wake of our spent rapture. From the moon's jaw, immersed now in twilight's twinkling intermission, heaven's shingle hangs like a cloud. Great mimes think alike, but never aloud. All right. Thank you. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce our lovely hostess from down under, Cassandra Atherton. She's an award-winning prose poet and international expert on prose poetry. Her prose poetry is widely anthologized and has been translated into Japanese, Chinese, and Korean. Cassandra has published more than 30 books and is currently writing an illustrated book of prose poetry on the Hiroshima Maidens, with funding from the Australia Council and the Victorian government. Cassandra co-wrote prose poetry and introduction and co-edited the Anthology of Australian Prose Poetry. She's commissioning editor for Westerly magazine and professor of writing and literature in Melbourne, Australia. Cassandra Atherton.
Thank you. And yeah, I'm still looking for ekphrastic poems. I'm writing a scholarly book on ekphrasis for Princeton, and I'll put my email address in the chat. So if people have ekphrastic poems that may fit into these chapters that I'm doing at the moment, I will definitely hit you up. So I have a prose poem called Amarone today, after one of my favorite red wines. It's in 2 short parts. 1. Show me the Amarone, dark cherry and raspberry on the tongue and coloring the teeth like blackberry, your childhood's blue-black explosion, something to quell the combustibility flaring like a Dunnian sonnet in our room. There are no fleas here, but there are teeth marks in my flesh like plath. We stand as in a lair, we feel heat larding our skin, your hands pull at my bra. 2. Show me the taste of oppressive, humid summer, the pesto greening the mouth, the tongue dancing between bites, searching others' lips. Show me the succulent berries that blacken fingers, making the mouth tartly sweet, that lengthens a kiss until it's the deepest and most ardent blue. Show me the color of your teeth. Taste this sudden bind of air. Okay, I have the pleasure of introducing Mark Vincennes, who is an Anglo-Swiss American poet, a fiction writer, translator, editor, publisher, designer, multi-genre artist, and musician. He's published over 30 books of poetry, translations, and fiction, including more recently, The Pearl Diver of Irun Mani with White Pine Press, A Splash of Cave Paint with Spite and Dival, a chapbook and alphabet of last rites with Chavina Bava, The King of Prussia is Drunk on Stars with Lavender Ink, and The Mayfly Codex with Spite and Dival. Later this year, there's also The Visitation, a novelette coming out from the wonderful Sir Vision. Mark is also a prolific translator, and he's translated from, the regulars know, German, Romanian, and French. He's published 11 books of translations, most recently an Audible Blue, Selected Poems 1963 to 2016 by award-winning Swiss poet and novelist, you know his name, Klaus Metz. It won the 2023 Massachusetts Book Prize for Translated Literature, which was pretty exciting. His own work has been translated into many languages, including Japanese, Chinese, Russian, French, Italian, Romanian, Greek, German, and Icelandic. He is currently working on a novel entitled The Age of Occasions. Vincennes is editor and publisher of the brilliant Mad Hat Press and publisher of New American Writing. He's lived all over the world. Here we go, people. From Brazil to China to Iceland to India. He was born in Matilda Hospital on the Peak in Hong Kong, but he now lives on a farm in rural western Massachusetts overlooking Herman Melville's Greylock Mountain, Melville's inspiration for Moby Dick. Where there are more, here we go, where there are more arabesque orb weavers, broad-faced sack spiders, and blue spotted salamanders and hominids. I love that one. I love an arabesque. I did ballet for 100 years, so I'm all into seeing what the orb weavers got for me, Mark. What have you got for me?
Unfortunately, I have something very hominid. No, not really. Actually, it's called Mer Monster. And I'll leave it to you to decide, is this a prose poem or is it a microfiction? Well, we all know the cell divides and multiplies. It is in their eukaryotic nature. And we all know Darwin said the adaptations are skills passed on to the next flock of finches, the next team of turtles. So surely in such a forbidden land as the Galapagos Islands, we would all learn to live with one another and our special adaptations. And the story goes that she died in a glen deep in a loch, and here too there was a Nessie of sorts, a one-of-a-kind, an aquatic troll. The newspaper man called her a mer-monster. I called her my grandma's ghost, scaring fine folk on their midnight jaunts, and ghost she would, along the railroad tracks, along finely groomed trails in the national park. One winter night, she was seen ice skating across the thousands of veteran tombstones in the Central Highway Cemetery. Grandma had always said she wanted a small, simple box with just enough room for her fat head. Forget about the body, she said. There's pretty much nothing there. And thus interred she was on St. Magellan's Day, with the spy hole gawping out from her wooden tomb, raised on a dais, with a few bunches of pink roses and a snapshot from the war. She observed the heft of the living world, legs of lead, torsos of iron, and exploding head busts of gold. It gave her the willies as she stared out from that hole, which, from the outside with its brass fittings and crossed bars, looked much like a ship's porthole. And thus she sailed toward her end station, far up north on the fringes of life, passing all her former suitors and admirers, her students and teachers, the healthy rushing streams of her youth guiding her on. And yet, the story doesn't end here. Even after she was buried, the sightings continued, and this So for months, but that's not all. After the year had passed, a speckled minor bird appeared at my windowsill. I could only infer from the bird's head movements that she wished to tell me of the second coming of the mer-monster. She returned in the afternoon and scratched at the window pane with this continual nodding of her head. That evening, I searched the loch by lamplight, looking for telltale signs. That trail of slime or ectoplasm, a shed silvery scale, or those claw marks on tree trunks, but found only the smallest scatterings of silver dust leading straight out into the cold, dark ocean. And now I am delighted to introduce Lydia Cortés, who is the author of 2 poetry collections, Lust for Lust and Whose Place. Lydia is also the recipient of fellowships from the Virginia Center for the Creative Arts and from the McDowell Colony. Welcome, Lydia.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark, very much for the invitation. And Jeffrito, muchísimas gracias por la invitación. Cake. Wednesday night, I was relaxing and getting ready to watch some mindless TV when I got a text from someone, no one I know, or did I? Good evening. Remember to deliver the cake to the designated place on time tomorrow morning. You have the wrong number. This isn't a cake place. I ordered a cake today. Have you forgotten? You have the wrong number. This isn't a cake place. I know nothing of cake. You should think about it. This is the phone number you left me. I think maybe I need to check the number. I have nothing to do with cakes. Yes, please check your numbers. Sorry, I realize now that your area code is not Los Angeles area code. It's embarrassing. I hope I'm not disturbing you. Glad you got things sorted out. Good luck with your cake. Good night. Thank you for reminding me. Otherwise, the cake will definitely be late tomorrow. As long as you didn't leave the cake out in the rain. Of course, I have asked my assistant to solve this problem. Don't worry, I will share the photos with you when I receive the cake. Okay, good night. You went to bed so early. Maybe it's because of our jet lag. I'm just ready to enjoy dinner, LOL. I am a real estate development investor, and I hope I can help you in the future. I own no real estate and don't expect to in the near future. And I know nothing of cake. Queen. Walking down the block straight into our new respectable name, NABE, came the riotous Titi Sara, recently arrived from Puerto Rico and now of the South Bronx and super. My family had just made it into the whitedom of Flatbush. We'd learned to read and write English better than the natives, even used the word quotidian once. We, my sister and I, had gotten rid of that telltale accent, and we were light, at least. My parents were another story, struggling with the lingo, and my brother couldn't talk, but told on us in his special way, given his off-kilter, repetitive gestures and jabberings. Still, we'd made it to Flatbush, but now here comes my voluptuary aunt, queen of cheap cacophony, the jangle of bracelets, her spikes clicketing and clacketing on cement, shiny tight-ass skirt, her spilling out bosom blouse, electric orange. She was just too big to be contained by any one normal eye. Following close behind her, 5 of her 8 children in size place, all chirping away in Spanish, loud, most of them a little darker than us. But you couldn't deny who they were, poor and Puerto Rican. In Sara's arms, a crying baby, tugging at her hair, now a brass crayon yellow. On her mouth, the deep magenta lipstick she loved matched the 2 dots of rouge on her cheeks. The loudness, the loudness, the loudnesses, the Spanish, the Spanish, cutting through the Flatbush, my Flatbush. Titi Sara, my gorgeous mess of an aunt, came strolling down Church Avenue. But before she spotted me, I hid in a doorway. I hid, though I couldn't wait to hug and kiss her, have her hold me, to smell her evening in Paris perfume, breathe in the love and hear her stories of the island, her raw jokes, her laughter and ours, but only where it was safe, behind doors, inside our house, away from Los Blanquitos. Pedro Pietri and the Church of the Most Glorious and Precious Mother of the Tomatoes. For Pedro, Vietnam was very bad, very. He cried, missing his mommy every day. He couldn't sleep for the horrors he'd been immersed in. Soon after he returned, he started wearing black, all black, every day. He was in mourning, his mother who died while he was dying in Nam. He did it to mourn the war, the losses on both sides. He let his curly black hair grow long down his back and wore a black skull cap almost covering his eyes. He'd grown a black mustache to match his wispy beard, a long black secondhand coat that he hunched into completed an odd looking character, many might say. Pedro started praying, but not at the 106th Street Family Church, but in his dark bedroom in the crowded family apartment in the projects that he'd returned to after Nam, after all the deaths, after all the horror of the missing limbs, the missing brains, the missing in action. The church, the Pietri family church, called the People's Evangelical Church, is on 106th Street and Lex, in what was once known as Spanish Harlem, Puerto Rican Harlem. Now it could be called Mexican or Salvadoreño or Hondureño Harlem or whatever, but Puerto Ricans are barely there. Pedro never lived in Spanish Harlem, only in regular Harlem, as he used to say. He lived near where the train tracks on 125th Street disappear like a dead man being lowered to his end. Pedro's age. Pedro always showed as 1 year younger than he was due to an error on his birth certificate. He really loved that. Still, he died in 2004 at 56. He would have gotten a kick in the ass out of that because he was actually 57. So it's like he cheated life out of that 1 year he left to it. He went for a natural cure at a holistic place deep in Mexico somewhere where when he found out about the stomach cancer, but nothing helped. It was too far gone, far out of sight, as he always said. Guffaw, guffaw, guffaw. He burst out, guffaw, guffaw, his style every time. He'd attended a failing high school, barely caring, barely graduating. In grammar school, newly arrived from PR and not speaking English, he'd been thought slow and called the kid with the big head, even by more than one teacher. The job at Columbia University's library was very, very good for him. Arranging all those books in the stacks provided him with an education, and he was voracious, and he began to write his poetry. He'd gotten the job there in his neighborhood soon after his return from Vietnam. Pedro invented his own church and sanctified it, the most glorious and precious church of the mother of the tomatoes. Pedro prayed to himself and discovered his poesy. He wrote, and that became La Poesía Exquisita Suya y Nada Más. Later, he had himself mail-ordered ordained and now called himself El Reverendo. The Reverend started performing. He started dragging around a huge black cross over his shoulder that he decorated with scores of tacked up technicolored condoms, this all at the height of the AIDS plague. He also typed up poems on tiny nickel bag envelopes and placed a condom inside each one. Each one was given a title of telephone booth number 801. No, of course not. I will not look at a man the same way I look at a woman. There is a difference. One makes me very horny and the other one doesn't. But I will not tell you which one. If you want that information, you will have to take off your clothes. Pedro hawked these on the street for $1, saying to prospective customers, if you don't like the poem, at least you can get a safe fuck for $1. He began writing his epic masterpiece, Puerto Rican Obituary. Later, he wrote many plays and got several, like No More Bingo at the Wake, produced by Joseph Papp, and The Masses Are Asses at the New Dramatists Guild, read by Raul Julia. Puerto Rican Obituary by Pedro Pietri, an excerpt. They were never late. They never spoke back when they were insulted. They worked. They never took days off that were not on the calendar. They never went on strike without permission. They worked 10 days a week and were only paid for 5. They worked, and they died. They died broke. They died owing. They died never knowing what the front entrance of the First National City Bank looks like. Juan, Miguel, Milagros, Olga, Manuel, they died today and will die again tomorrow. Juan, Miguel, Milagros, Olga, Manuel. Thank you.
All right, Lydia, thank you. That was legendary. Oh, those telephone booth poems, right? Dear equal opportunity employer, I am calling to say I am not coming to work today. If I feel worse tomorrow, I will be there early.
That's right.
I
That's
had the
Pedro.
pleasure to publish that one, right? All right,
Yep,
Lydia
that was
Cortés.
Pedro.
looking
Thank
for-
you.
Thank you. All right, next up, Don Yorty is the author of 3 poetry collections, A Few Swimmers Appear, Poet Laundromat, and Spring Sonnets, and a novel, What Night Forgets. He blogs at donyorty.com, an archive of current art, his own writing, and the work of other poets. And I must add here that Don is a tireless documenter of the scene. He tapes everybody's readings, puts them on his site at donyorty.com. Poems written in his 20s, Fucking and Other Poems, will be published by Indolent Books in 2025. Please welcome Mr. Badassery, Don Yorty.
Okay, I've just unmuted. Can everybody hear me? Yes? Oh, yes, I'm assuming. I'm gonna just read a couple sonnets. I've been working on sonnets since 2003, and I have a goal of 360, like a circle, degrees. And these are some of the more recent sonnets that, say, within the last couple years anyway. It takes me a long time to get something together. So I'm going to read a few, and I've got them up here. Okay. And Thank you, everybody, for asking me to read. Lydia, it's so great to hear you and see you. The last time I saw you, I wasn't feeling very well and I yelled at everybody. But anyway, I'm not going to yell tonight. So, but good to see you. And you're a hard act to follow, but here I go. Sonnet 219. And it's kind of a Valentine, right? Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Here's a kind of Valentine sonnet. I wrote this sitting in Stuyvesant Park, 219. I went to write something about you, but I'm not sure what. You are not with me now, so you are in my thoughts. We are in love, the two that becomes one. You ask me how I know? Today was cold. I didn't expect the sun, but it has come to make the cold day warm. Unexpected as it was, love gave me what I wanted. It didn't want. Spent, owed, bad karma spilled, impossible. The last sip from the bottle no surfeit can fill. Want, wants. Love, loves, and cannot kill. Like too much sun and too much water will take a green plant and shiver it dull, and where you thought there was is not at all. Sonnet 224. On a sad day of losses, big and small, someone left a flower pot in the hall. That wasn't money or plenty of time, but if I wanted it, the thing was mine. Alive for sure, because hint of a leaf, sharply and green, was beginning to peek out of the moss like the point of a knife pushed out of the earth by the hand of life, if life were a hand and it held a knife, but not to slash my throat. No, life was kind. At a closed door in a shadowy hall, a little thing, but I could have it all, this Amaryllis to be. Happiness was free and up to me, and always is. And moving right along, Sonnet 244, I wrote this in Tompkins Square Park as it was beginning to rain, and then it took me about 3 years to finish, but I started this in Tompkins Square Park. Sonnet 244. In autumn leaves, I watch teenagers kiss. They don't know I am watching, anxious. For them, the many possibilities, murder, fire, suicide, enemies. So much is left to chance, and just not fair. Like the black boy in Ohio, the cops shot dead holding a toy gun in a state where it is legal to carry one. May this African-American couple in the rain and swirling leaves have ample years to love and live. Kissing boy lifts her closer to him. I was a teenager once and remember this. We're all the same. Folks with things to do go every which way. Sonnet 247. There's no joy in killing a mouse, even though it's shit in the rice, and if there's shit, you know it's pissed in it as well. They chew through wires, cause fires, eat valuable books that would pay a month's rent. Photo of my mom when a little girl holding a kitten that would have loved to have gnawed on the mouse that gnawed on it is a precious ruin. I used to set those traps you'd carefully press that kindly snap their necks. They sell glue traps now that require no expertise. When I hear a mouse squeak, I go and drown it in the toilet. But it isn't any fun. A mouse is just as scared as anyone. Sonnet 249. This is like my epitaph, but I'm still writing it, I guess, because I'm not dead yet. Today I was thinking, once you're dead, it's finished, right? So, and as I was going over this today, thinking I'm going to read this, I was thinking, you know what, this doesn't sound right. Maybe I'm going to change it, but then right now I'm not changing it. Things are always changing till you're dead. Sonnet 249. Traveler, stop above my bones. Wet them with your tears or dry them with your laughter. Either way, honestly, does it matter? Don't get me wrong, I've had my fun. I fought my gods and won, and looking back can find no reason to repent a day. For I have loved and had that love returned in strange and unexpected ways. Now every veil is lifted and I'm everywhere, while you, O gentle soul, must go from here to there. But don't go with regrets. They're heavy. Leave them. They're dead. Forgive and you're forgiven. Then you can begin again. Go, get going, be gone. With expectation and affection. Don. Sonnet 253. There are so many homeless in the street looking like life's hit them with a 2x4 that you often see a busted nose. Poverty drives you crazy and deforms. One man zigzags, cigarette held where he'd hold his penis, which he actually is holding, urinating between a parked car and a halal truck where the Arab vendor works hard to make a buck. But who will order and wait by a pissing man who stinks so bad you have to turn your head to breathe the air that isn't him? One man works and one doesn't isn't what I've said. To live is work, and it is work to beg. And Sonnet 255. I may cry when I read this one, but just, I probably won't. Sonnet 255. My cat Cachito dying in my arms did not want to go, nor did I want him to, but it wasn't up to us. Some things we lose, some things are lost to us. The tree I buried him under died, believe it or not, the following spring, its almond buds shriveling before they could begin. I paid a man to dig up the almond and plant an apple that was already in the garden, but in the wrong spot. I stood by the hole until the shoveling discovered a skeleton. Forgive me, Cachito, for bothering you, but you will be white blossoms and red apples soon. Okay, now everybody's there. All right, so I'm going to do two more real quick. Sometimes I do poetry postcards. And this postcard is a postcard about Walt Whitman, a sonnet, Sonnet 50. I am singular and we are plural. I see us walking on the busy street and waiting for the bus. Each day I meet him, Walt Whitman, whose kind face I see all over the place, or I am in his brain, because I think that poet isn't dead any more than I live. Grass in his stead comes through the sidewalk's cracks. Let it remain, unnoticed as the air we breathe. New York City is just a poet's thought, and we are written on the page eternally, living then as well as now. Yet time's short. It's important to talk and say what is. I think of him, I am a thought of his. And one more little poetry postcard. Oh, pretty self. Oh, pretty self. A snake curled in the sun feels my shadow come and goes, ripple over stones. The stream falls down and oozes out of moss and mud where a deer stepped. No, I won't pick this violet. Let it clutch the cracking rock, blue out of yellow from a black dot. When I leave these woods to work and stammer or say 2 words at once, I'll think of it and stop. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, everybody out there in Australia and all over the place.
Thank you, Don. Now we're delighted to hear from Prince A. McNally, who's a widely published teaching and performance poet out of Brooklyn, New York. Prince facilitates workshops through schools and outreach programs utilizing poetry and creative writing as a means of expression and self-discovery. Prince's work has appeared in numerous publications across the US and abroad, and he's been nominated for the Best of the Net and Pushcart Poetry Prize. Welcome, Prince.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me. A little bit under the weather, but we'll work through it. I fancy myself a bit of a philosopher, so I'm going to share some of my philosophical pieces with you at first. This piece is called Tales of Silver Linings. Can y'all hear me? Okay. We enter upon this threshold called life completely naked with nothing more than an instinctual yearning for breath, an unforetold quest for love. For love is the very breath of life, stroking our brows with unsteady hands and unyielding promise, while destiny beckons our every move, leading us blindly upon wobbly legs under the guise of curiosity. Sporadic thoughts lie indiscriminately sprinkled upon cobblestone roads, riddled with mystery and missteps of which to build upon. I have often wrestled with the conflict of having two eyes bearing contrasting views, often arriving at life-altering decisions via forks in the road. Through trial and error, I have learned to embrace life more freely, completely unencumbered by the judgment of others, steadily walking that fine line between love and hate, failure and success. And though sometimes I may stumble, I remain steadfast yet humble, my faith undeterred and ever unflinching, for I have been blessed by the divine hand of God's grace and most infinite wisdom, incessantly weaving tales of silver linings. Next piece is called The Endless Flight of Doves. Many a dreamer yearns to fly, audaciously coveting the wings of eagles. Her dreams are no less regal, for she is but a votary of love who finger paints smiley faces and sunsets upon the canvas of gray clouds. So proudly she sings the defiant reverie of the daydreamer who endlessly ponders the soulful serenity of sunsets, ever chasing the light through the endless flight of doves. The aftertaste of war. The aftertaste of war is so sour and surreal, an unholy alchemy of pain, murder, death, and devastation. It tastes of stray dogs feeding upon mutilated corpses. You never forget the smell of burning flesh, or the mourning murmurs of weeping widows, their faces buried 6 feet deep beneath their palms. The haunting cries of wandering orphans sing like sirens summoning their lost parents. Impromptu funerals unveil acres upon acres of mass graves, gardens of death, planted with seeds of the deceased who bear no harvest. Each day we are haunted by the ghost of the dead who refuse to remain buried. The trials of butterflies. I have often pondered the depths of the human spirit, its capacity to ascend beyond the thresholds of pain and struggle, a mirrored reflection of the trials of butterflies. A slow and arduous journey from a lowly caterpillar to a wondrous being whose wings could alter all time and space. A path beautifully reminiscent of Christ, whose journey through hell, death, and resurrection would lift him to the heavens. Shadow boxing with her karma. To exercise her demons, she worked out 5 times a week, attempting to shed the unwanted debt she had acquired in her past life. A laborious burden accumulated during her many bouts with self-doubt, stemming from a deep-seated state of self-hate, bearing the wrath of the past that constantly haunted her. In her previous life, she was but a mute French prostitute who spoke sign language and French kisses. In this life, she is but a woman scorned, emotionally torn between remaining chaste and spreading her legs for tomorrow's pseudo promises that always seem to elude her. Life had taken her to task, knocking her on her ass time and time again. Time was surely of the essence, for the future would soon become her past, which is why she was so determined to win. Each morning, she'd wake up at 6 a.m. to face her demons in the mirror, shadow boxing with her karma, kicking its ass. Beautiful dreamers. I remember as a child spending summer nights in the lovely countryside of Burgos, North Carolina. My friends and I would lay for hours beneath the blanket of the warm, glistening sky amidst the nocturnal chatter of chirping frogs and singing crickets. We counted the constellations with starry eyes and anxious spirits. We may have been just children, but the moment we dove into our dreams, we became something special, something beautiful. We were such beautiful dreamers, slowly transforming from caterpillars to butterflies, forward thinkers and shapers of a bold and exciting new world. Oh, how we yearned to fly, wrapping our minds around hypothetical scenarios, stretching our vivid imaginations with immaculate wings, lifting us to urgent flight. So serenely we soared, slicing through the cutting wind with the precision of a falcon and the passion of an eagle. Rising to the auspicious occasion, the air rushed rapidly to our lungs, causing the oxygen to race through our veins with the burning desire of hungry flames. We could barely catch our breath, for which each passing moment we climbed higher and higher toward the welcoming stars until we could taste the sweet freedom of immortality. Exhaling gravity's hold upon our restless souls, singing glory, hallelujah, as we boldly stroked the sky blue horizon with the tips of our virtuous tongues. Earnestly we scribed a rhythm and rhyme and reason, for there is a reason why we are here. And there's a reason when we must all make the transition back to the essence and begin again. Through life's trials and vigorous application, I have come to learn that wisdom often speaks with a silent tongue. For one's journey through life can be celestially blessed, brushed by the sweeping hands of grace, and yet life can be cruel and staggering. And though we may all endeavor to live forever, the cycle of life shall always prevail with a heavy heart, bearing the offering of rain, pouring libations to those who have fallen as time moves ever swiftly with the impatience of youth toward no particular goal other than the constant of perpetual motion. Thus time greets us in each and every moment, bearing a childlike grin, eagerly relishing the coming of tomorrow's unknowing. Thank you.
Oh, wow. That was incredible. You're like a whole chorus there, Prince. Beautiful
Thanks.
stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All
Thank you
right.
for inviting
Good.
me.
We'll be looking for you. You're fun to party with too. All right, Prince. And next up, excuse me. I'm real happy to be able to introduce Nada Gordon, who I heard read recently with James Berger and Maria Damon. So that was great. She was a lot of fun. So here she is, a poet who was born in Oakland and lives in Brooklyn. She's the author of Foreign Body, Are Not Our Lowing Heifers Sleeker Than Night Swollen Mushrooms, The Imp, Swoon, Folly, Scented Rushes, Vile Lit, and two more books forthcoming soon: The Sound Princess, Selected Poems 1985 to 2015, and Emotional Support Peacock. That's going to be great. She's a founding member of the notorious Glorious Flarf Collective, and her work has been widely anthologized. Her poems have been translated into several languages, including French, Japanese, Dutch, Romanian, Chinese, Hebrew, and Burmese. Please welcome Nada Gordon. Nada.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? I'd like to thank everybody for existing on this strange planet as the strange species that we are. I mean, human beings are really strange, right? You know, so often they make they, meaning we, because we're the one who create all the taxonomies. They make our distinction from other species our linguistic capabilities. So I'm an English language teacher, and I'm constantly thinking about, mystified by, and sort of tripping out on grammar. So this is a poem that has grammar at its core. I mean, all poems have grammar at their core now that I think about it, but this is explicitly about, it's not about, this is explicitly around grammar. I'm also, as I'm speaking, I'm looking up at my really fluffy cat who's trying to jump onto my work surface. So no Flopsy, but I'll let him say hi to you before I do anything else. No, here he is. He's magnificent. He has a language. It's different from ours. Anyway, okay, Flopsy, down there. Do you guys know what illocutionary force is? It's like when you say something and then it comes to be. So, you know, like in the 10 Commandments, when Ramses says, so let it be written, so let it be done. Or I now pronounce you man and wife. Those are examples of illocutionary force. A gerund is a bean with legs. Largish, like fava. It hops about in chaotic adverbial space. I also love I have a lot of asides. I'm really only going to read one poem, but I'm going to stick in aside. So, I mean, fava, it occurs to me, is connected to the Middle Eastern dish fool. Have you eaten fool? Anybody? Delicious fava bean, sort of tangy, lemony, garlicky. Okay, but fool also makes me think of foolishness, folly. So largish, like fava, it hops about in chaotic adverbial space. Prepositions twinkle their connection neuronically. To and zap, fro, about, zap around. Grammar shimmies her inexorable nut-like depth. And by nut, I mean the Egyptian deity who is sort of arching above all of being and nurturing it. Nut-like depths, shaking off nouns as wayward spangles, scattering fur, scattering headphones, scattering tape and bars and calls. Meanings multiply awkwardly. So tape, bars, calls. I mean, those words, they have so many meanings. They're so simple, but just think about like what a bar can mean in English. Grammar shimmies too, Vijaya Sundaram. Countable, like salmon fillets. Uncountable, like koi in a pond. Oils, waters, fruits, beers. And anybody here who might not be a native speaker of English, you might be aware of how bizarre these sort of notions of countable and uncountable nouns. But if anybody tries to tell you that there are actually uncountable and countable nouns, that's not really precise. There are only countable and uncountable senses of nouns. So there are contexts where you would say oils or waters, right? Okay. The subjects and verbs shake paws, agree to agree. Positives, no, wrong. Appositives are bombs of information. Fragrant, efficient, busy. In grammar, all is alive. The language acquisition device purrs, grumbles, gives off sparks. So you guys know what the language acquisition device is? Any linguistics people in here? That was Chomsky's theory of this sort of deep grammar. It's like the black box in a way, I guess, in an airplane. But deep structure. But I love thinking about it as like the Kaaba or something. Anyway. Purrs, grumbles, gives off sparks. Noun phrases having preened pose elegantly as Gainsborough portraits. Consonants cluster around them in awe. The bilabials become particularly abject, tearing at their chintz garments. Actual lexical meaning may be unclear, but we don't care. Invisible syntactic relationships of body parts, the long twisting tube from mouth to anus. I don't put a main verb because it doesn't matter what I say about it, just that it exists. Am I or you or anybody a noun verbing or a verb nouning? Do I verb or am I verbed? How nouny can I be with changing cells? Is each bacterium in me its own noun, or are we a collective? Aren't we all a little bit dead, pregnant, freezing? Isn't grammar like a gel squishy toy we're actually trapped in? And that's it. Thank you.
Terrific. We're not trapped though. All right, Mark.
I dare you to get out of it.
Okay. 2 point taken, Nada. That was awesome, huh?
Thanks, Nada. Thank you. Jordan's third book, Jordan Davis's third book. It was just published by Mad Hat. His poems have appeared in Poetry, The New Yorker, and his criticism has appeared in The Nation and the Times Literary Supplement. Welcome, Jordan.
Thanks, Mark. And thanks, Jeff and Cassandra, for making this happen. It's a great joy to be reading with Don, Lydia, Prince, and Nada. And joy is not to be taken for granted. The animals. It's a subject of some interest, whether we're always going to be in charge of the animals. What feelings are for? I thought I was running as hard as possible, but now I'm going faster. It feels better, actually. Something is pushing me through a translucent membrane toward the sky. I can't quite see the sharp edges of clouds, but I'm tumbling uncomfortably toward this blue and white upper limit, rolling up on a wave of garbage. The neuroses of animals are all that keep us from full-on interspecies war. Paraphrase. You may recognize the source material for this eventually. It's Periprase, which is a little different from Para. You are beautiful, and I wish you would have children. When you are old, it would make you happy to have them. You owe it to your mother, who was as beautiful as you. If you die, there won't be anyone with your beauty around. You are going to get old and die, you know. Give it up. You should have 10 kids. Do you think you'll just come back like the sun? Is this music bothering you? I don't buy that you're afraid of leaving a widow behind. I think you hate yourself. Prove me wrong. As you get older, your child will be young. Really, having a kid is as close as you can get to eternal youth. Think of it as good business. I don't need to know your sign. I can see it in your eyes. People are like plants. I'm just trying to get you to propagate, but I can't do it just with poetry. And by the way, unless you have a child, nobody's going to believe how beautiful I say you are. Well, you are beautiful, and I'm a pretty good poet. I want to tell time not to let you get old. God, it's too bad neither of us is a woman. I hope I never say dippy things in praise of you. When we're together, I don't feel older than you. Sometimes I get so excited with you that I say crazy things. Ignore them. For example, when I said bosom shop, I was just frustrated. I don't want to be president. I only want your vote. Or to vote for you? I'm confused. And I wish you'd say something so I could tell you how much I love you. Even when I'm worn out, thoughts of you keep me up day and night. I need to get some and to give, and I feel pretty low until I remember that you love me. I'll cry over everything that ever made me sad. Then I'll remember you, your chest among other things, reminding me of my whole scorecard. When I'm gone, if you read my poems, I know there are better poets, but which ones loved you more? Hey, did you just go behind a cloud? Where'd you go? I don't care that you're back. That hurt. Gosh, it didn't hurt that much. Cheer up. It was probably my fault. It was absolutely my fault. You make an old poet happy. With you around, there's always something to write about. So this book is years in the making, and I'm just going to read poems that people have mentioned to me they remembered after they read it. There are a lot of, they fly by, and I don't really try and grab people. My son, when he was in second grade, said, "Dad, they're teaching us how to write." I said, "What do they tell you?" He said, "Well, we have to write a grabby opening." I said, "Grabby? Like crabby?" And he said, "No, like grab." I was like, Think tank girl. Do the easy things first. Get some momentum. It's a management principle. Also, you might make sure you're not poisoning apples in the sprawl, claiming responsibility for turning the hillside from smooth dark green to a grid of pale cubes, an avocado you'd invert to feed your young. In a free market, they call sneak attacks troubleshooting. You could stare into the data with an earnest face and fail to generalize except to see a Persian rug in it and steganography as persistence error, eyes into circle, and open mouth. Whether it does it quickly by cutting off your most sensitive part, your future, or whether it walls off the part of your brain that cloaks your feelings to let you breathe, the thing you think you live for kills you. That, as far as I know, is the reasonable connection between love and death. It works for all X. Think tank girl, you have the right idea. Can't be a free agent on a team. Can't be a free agent until you start on a team. Get carrying those cartons of leaflets. No shame there. Defoe wrote them too. The painted jar of peaches, wax paper over the top, will not always be at the top of the stair. The couple kissing on the landing is mentally in Samarkand. And can the third thing be kept at bay, uncomprehending ally, for as long as the consolidation takes? Maybe, if the money's betting on you. If you cornered me on that teacher joke, what separates us from the animals? I'd answer with the animals. A fence. The CEOs agree. Put down books. You need a bias to action. A point of view animating you into argument. Hint, safety in numbers only overlaps with love. If you want a guide, there are two, gold and rule. Thanks. This is a poem called The Unmistakable Children's Book Quality. This is about the first time I heard Brenda Coltis read. I thought, what is that feeling? And I sat around for a while and I figured it out. The taste test inside you generates votes against democracy, and in the heat waves even, they're advocating a truth seeming different indeed from truth serum. Wave back with me as I say the business of America is anybody's, and therefore nobody's. And I sit through the indoctrination twice or three times in the rocking chairs deep inside the Death Star to get my worth. It could be right the first time, it could be written, but nobody speaks to me, and I'm used to the way the room gets bright when the breeze off the river turns the trees in the courtyard. Paper slides under door. This poem is called Anecdote Room, and it's about an underground, secret, wonderful art movie directed by Ron Rice called, I think it's called The Queen of Sheba in Atom City, starring the late, wonderful, funny, genius Taylor Mead. I mean, there were some other people in it. And Taylor, when I used to go to a bar down on Ludlow Street, Taylor was always sitting in the chair closest to the pinball machines. And I played a lot of pinball. And I think one time I said, "You were great in Queen of Sheba and Atom City." And said, "Who are you?" It was wonderful. Anecdote Room for Ron Rice. I have a cat looking in my eyes. So much for consensus. The music of Ravel leafleting the dictators to promote the Amaryllis. Do you think it cares stupidly, as if free will were a catalog to be ordered from, desperate to be turned around and kissed, and a lot more? But not here, not now, not any other time either. Then give me a deep shot of the water, moving objects by, and the boat with the Queen of Sheba, and behind her foggy Sheba City, putting the strict back in the district. Don't you think etymology ought to be more like a library or a bar, any place you can get turned on by accident on purpose? And now my time is perforated. I need a story. I need you to read to me something not about finance, but redolent of the piano work I'd train myself in, get laid up to be tended to by you, better than I could do. I think I've got time for about two more, or three if they're really short, which most of these are. Red mark. A lot of teachers on this Zoom. Red mark. The kedsoles of the long-haired girl to my right are wearing down the river's dark. A boat. I'm rowing you across a river in Banff, and when I take you in a car to your mother's house, the Bay of Fundy. At work, the Coast Guard, walking there, the Merchant Marine, me in my pea coat. And I'll close with the title poem. Just again, look for it in stores or online. It exists. It's a real book. You can have it. I can't give it to you through the computer. I tried. Doesn't work that way, but you can probably find it if you look. Yeah, no. Echolocate the chocolate. Thank you. Shavua Tov, everybody.
Yay.
Thanks, Jordan. Thanks so much. Well, of course, thank you, all of you. Thank you, Lydia, Don, Prince, Nada, and Jordan. Wonderful, wonderful show tonight. And I'm going to hand it over to Cassandra, who's going to lead the open mic section of this show.
Yeah, that was amazing. And we say yeah, no in Australia all the time. We're known for that being really a terrible thing because people are like, yeah, you're on board. And then you're like, yeah, nah. So I loved it. It was really powerful and provocative series of features today. I love it when that happens. All comes together. But now we have an equally powerful and provocative open mic, and it always begins with the crazy mind of John Wessex, who can do any kind of physics and mathematics that you can ask him to do, and he can also write a cracking piece of writing. So John, what do you got?
Well, three poets who I knew from San Diego just died in the last month. Karen Kenyon, Trish Duggar, and Mark Kokonos. Karen and I would do take part in these big readings at the Carlsbad Library. And then Trish Duggar was like a sweet little old lady with a wicked sense of humor, who was the first poet laureate of Encinitas, California. And then Mark Kokonos hosted a very popular reading in San Diego at a coffee shop called Claire de Lune's. Then he moved up to San Francisco and he hosted a reading at the Sacred Grounds coffee shop. And he was working as kind of like a lighting technician, I think, a union lighting technician, and he just died maybe I think this week. So I looked around online and actually found one of Mark's poems, and I'll read this to you. It's called Purpose. German postmodernist philosopher questions the purpose of poetry. For him, obsolete since Auschwitz, what use is the crafting of words after exposure to such horrors? Poems scrawled in the hidden corners of death camp barracks walls, anonymous as the numbers, tattooed onto 6 million arms, are still whispering their answer. So that was Purpose by the late Mark Kokonos.
Thank you. Thank you for paying tribute to those amazing people today. I'm so sorry that you're having such a kind of sad time. What a powerful poem. What use is the crafting of words? I think poets think about that all the time. So thank you for sharing. And I guess we power on. So Patricia, I have you next. What have you got for us?
Okay, I'm going to read this poem that was just taken by New Croton Review. So I'm very happy about that. A lady holds a kitten by the table. I listened to a conversation between you and your partner. Philosophical clashes that last 10 minutes. Words that disappear into air and meander outside this room. I'm used to being stared at, and my kitten doesn't care. It doesn't matter if we're uncomfortable or not. The curator's mission is to entertain and educate. She holds a PhD in art history, but she lacks the understanding behind those brushstrokes back in his Parisian flat. His secret language, expressions for loss, not for the latest trend, not for that nouveau riche patron. Hours of infinite eyes pass by, endless dissections, the reasons for color, the meaning behind my eyes, and why is my kitten looking away? Our two-dimensional world serves the public, but at night, when the lights go out and the room is empty, I become like you. Leave this gilded frame, visit his self-portrait across the way. We sit on the museum's bench. He shares his glass of wine. I, my cheese, bread, and fruit. My kitten joins us, leaves another mark on the wooden bench. Proof that we are more than what the eyes see. Thank you.
Wow, congratulations on the publication. And I love that we've got a language theme moving through today as well, his secret language. But the kitten is the star of that show, I think. I'm used to being stared at and my kitten doesn't care is one of my favorite lines. That's so true. The essence of that right there. So thank you so much, Patricia. Next, we have the incredible Mike Folds. We haven't seen him for a couple of weeks. He's always in his kind of futuristic garage. Mike, what's going on? Is he still around? He is. I'll ask him to unmute. You're still muted. I've just asked you to unmute because I missed your preamble.
How is that?
Perfect.
I said, thank you very much for the invitation to read. Not too much else going on.
Excellent.
But
Lovely.
here's a poem called SOS, and it's kind of new. I think it's done, but we'll see. It's in 6 parts, by the way. So 1, heart, kidney, bladder, empty yellow vials, and some that are full. Plastic soldiers fighting a losing game. 2, the lowdown on slowdown. The body knows when it's time to turn out the lights. Mind takes care of itself. 3. Grief. She loved, he died, she lived, the children needed her. They matured, and when they no longer needed her just to survive, her grief played out slowly in Alzheimer's. No shock. They all knew what was coming. More grief. Gifts. You asked for shorter poems, 4-line poems, short lines. Oh, I tried for days, but everything ran long, even now. 5. Palpitations. Preceding the attack, shortness of breath, chest pains, anxiety. Nothing works to alleviate the disordered heart. Numbers. To lower the numbers, consider quitting the pills and overdose on forbidden grapefruit. Tastes better with a little white sugar, also forbidden, except when served in the waiting room. Thank you.
Wow, that's so moving. You write so beautifully about grief, the disordered heart, plastic soldiers fighting a losing game. Really beautiful and really sad. Thank you, Mike.
Well, I'm sorry to bring you down.
No, I think that's important. It's not bringing you down. It's the beauty of the writing that gives you a response like this. So thank you.
I can bring you down lots of times here.
I'll give you a call.
Yeah.
Excellent. We have May next. So May, what have you got for us? I think you're new to our open. We always get excited about our newbies.
Hi. One poem titled Solastalgia, Homesick for the Sky. Let's not pretend we're living in good times. Of the 4 elements, I most miss air. In my garden, milkweeds plus 1 monarch butterfly equals 0 caterpillars equals despair. No bluebirds, Carolina wrens, goldfinches, gray catbirds, nuthatches, orioles, ruby-throated hummingbirds, or yellow-bellied sapsuckers. None showed up this spring. 1 sick, immature, red-tailed hawk, moaning. A raptor, an apex predator, moaning not like a man in pain or a drugged horse as it comes out of anesthesia. It moaned like a hot water radiator would if a radiator could starve. When I tried to scoop it into a towel, the bird dragged itself into a thicket of red twig dogwood and disappeared. I think it was blind. I think it was the bird flu. Then the sky turned yellow-gray with Canadian smoke. My throat burned. The sun went 20-watt bulb dim. Robins stayed up in the oak for days, clucking their evening song in confused patterns. I want an insect-smashed windshield. I want the bay reflection blue. I want to stop missing the sky.
Wow.
Thank you.
That was incredibly beautiful. Such visual imagery that's so popping in my head. Homesick for the Sky is a beautiful title for a poem too. And I most miss air. So many great lines, so many amazing images. Thank you, May. Please come back anytime and read more of your wonderful writing.
Oh, thank you.
Next, we have Vijaya. We love Vijaya. She apparently has a flower lurking somewhere. Maybe we can get her to put it behind her ear in the next couple of weeks.
I just did.
Yay! Hooray, we match. Twins.
So, like Cassandra, I also wear a flower in my ear, near my ear. And I thought, I don't want to duplicate when someone else is there. I didn't want to, And then Cassandra and I messaged her and she said, no, we should wear it. So I did.
To take over the world, everyone should wear a flower behind their ear.
We'll
Jeff,
put-
I'm looking.
when I perform poetry, I feel I need to do something different. So some kind of headgear, and the flowers, I just
Beautiful.
it's right there every time. So thank you. Thank you for having me. I wanted to read a poem which I couldn't decide whether to read a sad poem or a whimsical one. And I guess I can't ask you, because then it'll be hard to see who wants what. So I'm going to read something that's a little, I don't know, a little biographical. Not my life, not auto, but biographical. The life that could have been. I'm just gonna, yeah, okay. Sanskrit slokas and scholarly readings, flying a plane, cutting through bonds, holding earth and space and time, cutting all ties binding you to people who needed you, who held you tethered to a concept that tugged at you, the provider, the responsible one, journeying into the far reaches of the planet, delving into the patras of Itihasam, memorizing names, dates, events, following your muse, Cleo, to understand the mazed parts of humanity's sorrowful, wonderful, perplexing, horrifying past, enjoying the pleasures of the palate with a lusty appetite which formed the ghost of that which haunted you in later life. All this would have been your reality, rather than the dreams that floated mist-like through your giant mind, which instead grappled with numbers, figures, money, banks, business, family obligations. Making ends meet, you took care of brothers, sister, arranged their education, weddings, arranged for your children's futures, to be educated, to find their true selves, encouraging, loving, impatient, kind, powerful bonhomers, full of optimism, always despite shattered dreams, full of humor, full of promises unkept, full of a refusal to give in. Even when helpless, felled by a train, you eked out the remainder of your life, mostly abed. Willie Loman you almost were, but with 10 times the charisma. All the lives you touched, some filled with appreciation, some with resentment, many with gratitude for the chances you gave them, others with blind adoration. These were your legacy to your children and to the rest, your claim to immortality. It's what there is. For what else was there? The sands of time shifted too often, too unpredictably. You were trapped. We all do what we must. You did what you could. Fate, blind and hateful, felled you. Your family picked you up. There was love, yet not all that is given is lost. You get back some floats back on the tide, bloody though it might be. You were respected. You were loved. You were trapped. You were loved. You were saved. You were loved. You died. You were loved.
Wow. Thank you so much, Vijaya, holding earth and space and time. And maybe my favorite line is Willie Loman with 10 times the charisma. I could actually see that. I do love the character of Willie Loman. Thank you so much. And yes, please come again with your flower. You're very welcome. Next, we have the very eloquent Leslie, who is always here to give us something tasty from her poetry oeuvre. So Leslie, what do you got?
Thank you, Cassandra, and all the readers, amazing. I mean, really spectacular. And I particularly want to thank Nada and Vijaya for sparking a great conversation on pieces of grammar. So I'm going to read an old poem, old-ish, not too old, for Valentine's. Hang on. Okay. Smoky, wet. Smoky, wet wings, butter delicious. I see us everywhere, drawn out, beating, slow, knowing. We immerse ourselves together. This one breath, the next one, this breath, this flash making 2 years moving away back to where we spent our whole lives. releasing for the journey we knew we would take if we were lucky, if we came in your dreams, preparing for delicious. And God, how it is that we were lucky. Your breath on my breath, wet, smoky. Your heart on my heart, dancing, slow, absorbed. I have always been searching for you.
Wow. That was so sensual. I loved that. Butter delicious. That's brilliant. Absolutely adored that one. Thank you so much, Leslie. Very sexy. We can keep that one in our minds for, as you said, Valentine's Day coming up. And we always end the open with the infamous duo of Cindy and Bob. Now, I believe this is a bit of did you say, Jeff, like a Brooklyn badass reading? So you can't get any more Brooklyn and badass than Cindy Hockman. What do you got?
Badass.
Well, I've got Jeff. You know, I was going to read another poem, a different poem, one of my I Am the Girl poems, but Leslie reminded me that it is Valentine's Day coming up. So in my book, The Carcinogenic Bride, I have a couple of love poems or pseudo love poems. So I'm going to read one. And this is actually a poignant one because I wrote it for about 30 years ago from my ex-husband who passed away in April of this past year. We had become very good friends during the pandemic. He was in Florida where I used to live with him. And the marriage failed, but we were always good friends for like 40 years. So here's my poem for him. It's called For You, which is actually the name of a Springsteen song. So, and I'm a big fan, so that's why I named it that. And you were there, first date, when we took a surrealistic bath. And you were there through sexless nights of moons and tantrums. And you were there propelling me safely over anxious mountains. And you were there through violent valentines and all our gentle wars. And you were there through tea time and toxins. And you were there with your thumbs raised, your eyebrows raised, your penis raised, and your guard down. And you are here now, unsheepish, leading the herd. Thank you.
Cindy, that was amazing. You know, I'm going to say your penis raised is my favorite line. You know that.
That's why I read it that way.
I love it. What an amazing tribute to him. I know you had such a special relationship. I think he's probably smiling down at that one.
He liked that poem.
It's an awesome one. And I love the title. I've always loved the title, The Carcinogenic Bride. And I love that you said it's got a love poem in it. So it's wonderful. Thank you.
It was named like that because I had cancer, and then the following year I was married. So carcinogenic.
Ah, I didn't know that.
It really was. I was on chemo.
Wow.
When we got married.
That's very brave. Thank you. Now we always end the open with Cindy's partner in crime, or is Bob Cindy's partner in crime? I don't know. But Bob Heeman is the only way we can end the open because he has something for us. I say it each time. I take it away with me. Think about it over my breakfast and my coffee. You never know what he's going to do. He's entirely unpredictable. He comes in from his kitchen. Bob, what have you got?
Okay, a short poem. The idea of, or an outline. The words extra, or no longer a description of. the dimensions those of a rhino or giraffe, or a man who has been inflated. The story starting in this way.
And that's why Bob ends the open, because he's so provocative. Who knows what the end might mean to you today? Mark, Jeff, what news?
Cassandra, well, I mean, what can I say? This was quite an incredible show. Very varied styles, and very interesting. All very engaging poets. Amazing. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Lydia. Thank you, Don. Thank you, Prince. And thank you, Nada. Also, I'd like to let you know that on March 2nd, which is the next Lit Balm show, we have a prose poetry show with Celia Bland, Meg Pokrass, David Swan, and Jeff Friedman. And on March 9, we have a Maxine Chernoff show, as she just released her new unselected poems. And present will be Paul Hoover, Leah Graham, Randy Prutney, Donna de la Piera, Keith Donald Jr., and Francis Ruang. So please join us for those shows. And before I bid you all adieu, I'm going to read you one last tiny thing. And it's called In a Million Years. In a million years, one of us will call out into the distance. An echo will resound. That's it. Thank you.
Right. And Mark, send
Yeah.
us a postcard from Louisville, man.
Oh, yeah, sure. Louisville's coming up soon. Louisville Conference on Literature and God knows what else. But I'll be there in Kentucky. And if any of you are there, say hi. Yeah. Thanks so much, everyone. See you soon. Lots of love and poetry.
Thanks again.